Ever wondered how people end up with cruise bills that they didn't expect, miss their ship in port, or get turned away at the terminal, even after paying thousands of dollars? It's almost always the same mistakes as well, and today we're stopping every single one of them.
This video is sponsored by Surfshark.
Stay here because if you don't hear what's coming up, you could lose your ship, your luggage, or even your whole cruise vacation. Insert dramatic music here. So the first one is missing the ship in port. Yes, this is the ultimate walk of shame. We've all seen the videos where people are frantically running on the port to try and catch the ship before it leaves the dock, waving their hats, shouting, "Wait," while the ship calmly pulls away, everyone on board with their cameras out like, "Ooh, we've got runners." First of all, the ship will not wait. They don't care if you're running, sweating, crying, nothing. And if you're not on that gangway at the all aboard time, you are done. The number one reason people miss the ship? They trusted their mobile phone time. Ship time and local time don't always match. They can be different. Ships often jump ahead or back an hour to make things more easier on the cruise. But once you get off the ship, your phone can see a cell tower on land and thinks, "Oh hello, let me switch time zones without asking you." So you walk around feeling all relaxed, thinking you have at least an hour left, but the ship thinks you have 5 minutes left. Make sure that your phone does not change time automatically. Set it manually to the ship time. Because if you unfortunately do miss the ship, you'll need to fly to the next port or travel to the next port, get a hotel, rent a car, or basically survive. But missing the ship doesn't just happen in port. It also happens before you even get on the cruise.
So talking about boarding, the next tip is missing boarding on day one, and this hits so many people. People think, oh, I can just arrive 2 hours before the cruise departs. What could go wrong? Everything could go wrong. You need to think of the worst case scenario and make a plan around it. Just think, traffic could completely shut down. Roadworks could appear out of nowhere. Sports events could block every single road, and taxi drivers could take the scenic route, making you late. And if you're flying in, your flight could be delayed, cancelled, or rerouted for any reason. Your luggage could end up in Birmingham, Alabama, or Birmingham, England, even though you're flying to Miami. That's why we advise you fly into your port destination the day before your cruise. Just book a hotel near the port and have a relaxed dinner or enjoy the port the night before. That way you can get a proper sleep and arrive at the ship feeling refreshed, civilized, and ready for your vacation. Not like feral goblins clutching to boarding passes and whispering, "We might make it, we might make it."
So the next one is seasickness and how to outsmart it, because this one can be a cruise killer if you don't plan ahead. Ooh. So let's avoid that. Pick a cabin in the middle of the ship on a lower deck. That's the calmest place to be. It's basically the cruise ship's zen zone, because most of the movement happens at the front and the back of the ship, also known as the forward of the ship and the aft of the ship. The midship is definitely the calmest place to be. Next up, you can also avoid itineraries with long open ocean stretches. Caribbean? Lovely. Mediterranean? Lovely. A transatlantic or a trans-Pacific? That's the sea testing your will to live. You'll often find the seas are much rougher on longer stretches of sea further out. But the time of year that you travel also comes into this as well. Travelling in the Caribbean in hurricane season, June to October type of time, can involve storms that create bigger waves and more movement. The same goes for the Mediterranean in the winter rather than summer. But overall, things can be very unpredictable. You can get waves and movement in any part of the world. We recommend eating fresh foods. Apples and ginger sweets work wonders. We also swear by the medication called Bonine. It doesn't make us sleepy, but we always recommend checking with a medical professional first, as we're not a doctor, so we can't prescribe you anything. We often find medications like Dramamine make us very drowsy, so we do prefer using Bonine or the off-brand versions of the same medication. And please, don't drink 8 margaritas and then complain you feel dizzy when the ship moves 1 inch. Be smarter than that.
Next up, medical bills. And let's get serious about this one, because medical bills on cruise ships can cost anything upwards of $50,000 to $100,000.
That is not the souvenir you want to bring home. Please get proper travel insurance that clearly covers cruises. Not all policies automatically include cruise cover, and that's where people get caught out. You basically want medical treatment, emergency evacuation, missed port cover, delayed flights, lost luggage, and yes, read the fine print. It's super boring, we know, but trust me, it's better than having to pay off a medical bill until you're at least 90 years old. So next up, one thing we always do is make a DIY medical kit, because you can buy all things like medications and band-aids on a cruise ship or in port, but it's going to cost you double the price. So we always pack our own DIY first aid kit. Some things that we usually take include pain relief, plasters or band-aids for you North Americans, tummy medication, seasickness tablets, bug spray, sunscreen, a mini dental repair kit, prescription medications, and we've used our DIY first aid kit basically on every single cruise. If you've ever had to pay $14 for a pack of band-aids on board, you'll never forget your first aid kit again.
Don't get kicked off the ship, and this happens surprisingly a lot more than you think. The easiest ways you could get kicked off a cruise ship are: skip the muster drill? Nope, they will track you down like a missing Amazon parcel. Also, if you bring any CBD or illegal drugs on board, you will be instantly removed from the ship and be banned for life. If you have prescription medication, make sure that you bring proof with you, because you could be refused boarding. Also, don't be an idiot, keep off the railings and don't be climbing them for a selfie, because not only are you putting your life at risk, you could be putting your vacation at risk. You will be kicked straight off the ship, and again, you could be banned for life. If you smoke or vape on your balcony or in designated areas that are declared non-smoking, you may be kicked off the ship at the next port. Honestly, cruise lines don't joke around when it comes to safety. Just don't be an idiot, and don't be getting drunk or starting fights, because you may be swapping your cabin for an onboard jail cell. Our next nightmare is trying to access essential websites that we need when traveling that have been blocked.
And that's why we use Surfshark VPN, and they're the sponsor of this week's video.
Cruise ship Wi-Fi and certain countries you're traveling to can block access to websites that you actually need. Only the other day we were trying to pay some bills and log into our bank back in the UK, but unfortunately the websites had been blocked. Surfshark lets us get around that by connecting back to our home country, or literally anywhere in the world we want to be.
Second is safety. We're always connecting to public Wi-Fi, whether it be cafes, hotels, or the cruise ship itself. Surfshark encrypts your connection, so you're not just handing your data over to Shady Dave, who's sitting next to you in the coffee shop.
It also includes extra tools like Surfshark Alert, which monitors for data breaches and notifies you if your personal details show up in a leak. So, if you want to avoid one of the easiest tech mistakes you could make on a cruise, go to surfshark.com/Ben and David, or use the code Ben and David at the checkout to get 4 extra months of Surfshark VPN.
The next one is being denied boarding, and unfortunately this one happens over and over again, and it can completely ruin your cruise before it even starts. Wrong documents. So lots of North American cruisers think that their birth certificate and ID are enough, and they are, but only for certain Caribbean or Alaska sailings. The moment your ship visits Panama, Europe, South America, Asia, or any other port with strict entry rules, you may need a passport. And sometimes you also need a visa. Some visas are easy. All you need to do is fill in a form and pay a few dollars, and some actually require embassy visits in person. So if you don't have a visa, but you needed one for one of the ports or more on your itinerary, the cruise line may not let you board at all. Europe and UK are just a few of the places introducing visas for travellers, so make sure you take a look at each port and check what's required based on your citizenship, as some countries need visas whilst others don't. And that goes even if it's a port where you weren't planning to get off in. I know it doesn't make much sense. You will be refused from getting on board the cruise if you don't have the correct documentation. And please keep passports, money, medications and all visa documents in your carry-on. Never put any of this in your checked luggage, because if your checked bag disappears and your passport was inside, well, that's your cruise holiday gone, unfortunately. On top of this, cruise lines don't always tell you what's needed for your cruise. Sometimes they do email you with a list of visa requirements, but sometimes they don't. So the ultimate responsibility is up to you. So always check all of the different ports and parts of the world that you're going to be visiting and make sure you have all the required documentation.
Our next cruise nightmare is lost luggage. Let's talk about how you avoid it, because we've all dreamt about that horror of waiting at the baggage carousel for your bag. Everybody else's bags come out, except yours. This isn't a dream. This is a nightmare, and we have lived it. Trust us, it is not fun. To avoid this, here's what we do now. We carry AirTags or Android tags to track our bags, and we put them inside of our luggage. Now, obviously that's not going to make our luggage stick with us, but it does mean in the scenario that our luggage goes missing, we at least know where it is, and we can inform the airline or the cruise line so that they'll find our bags even quicker. We also put labels with our information inside the bag as well as on the outside. I personally have had a label fall off my bag while it was at the airport, and it ended up back in arrivals rather than on the aeroplane. Thankfully, I had my contact information inside my suitcase, meaning they could find me really quickly. Take pictures of your bag so you can describe it if it ever goes missing. We've had to do this before, and it's easier to show a picture rather than describe the black one. That's very soft, you know. The Samsonite black one. Another top tip is to split clothes between your bags. If you're a couple travelling together, put half of your clothes in each other's bags. That way, if one goes missing, you've still got at least something you can cobble together. That looks like an outfit.
So next up, let's talk about the phone bill from hell. And this one hurts cruisers so much because this one's very sneaky. So, when the ship is at sea, there's a special maritime mobile network. If your phone connects to it, the charges are honestly unbelievable. We've seen people get bills for thousands just from receiving a few texts and your phone updating in the background. Always, and I mean always, put your phone into aeroplane mode when the ship leaves port, and make sure that you turn off data roaming when you're not using it. If you need the Wi-Fi, buy the ship's package. And if your mobile plan doesn't include roaming in the port you're visiting, only use your phone on Wi-Fi in shore as well, because it can cost an absolute fortune. One cheeky FaceTime at sea could cost you an entire cruise fare. This is one of the ways to rack up a huge bill more than any of the other ways, because it is so easy to forget to turn your data roaming off. Even with aeroplane mode on, you can still connect to Wi-Fi on board the ship. It just offers you a layer of protection.
And finally, we've got a quick fire round of common mistakes. These are simple, but brutal.
Like you.
Thanks.
Don't eat in the buffet on embarkation day because it's like a zoo up there. As soon as everybody gets on, the majority of people are hungry, and the first place they head to is the buffet. So it is one of the busiest places on the first day of your cruise. We recommend completely avoiding it if possible and going to one of the quick service outlets, a restaurant if it's open, or just somewhere different, because it is complete and utter chaos.
Don't overpack. Just bring the basics, you'll be fine. You're not the Beckhams, calm down. You don't need 24 outfits for your 4-night cruise. And just think, whatever you're packing, you have got to carry it to and from the ship.
We always try avoiding booking cruise line excursions because they are just so expensive and they're a little bit regimented with large groups of people being dragged around. We do it DIY or book with Shore Excursions Group. They're much cheaper and just as good. And we have a link in the description section below to book an excursion with Shore Excursions Group. We really recommend them.
Turn up at your actual boarding time. If you're given a boarding time by the cruise line, just turn up at the time you are given. Don't be too early because you'll just be waiting around, and if everyone arrives early, the system breaks down.
So, if you're wondering how to get an early boarding time, make sure you check in as early as possible because those slots go very quickly. So as soon as check-in is open for your cruise, make sure you do all of the documents and information, and then at the end it usually asks you to select a boarding time. If you do it early enough, you'll get one of the early ones and be able to spend more time on the cruise.
Next, if there's a particular specialty dining restaurant or entertainment you want to do that you need to book, do it early because they do sell out fast. This is particular for the more popular restaurants, for example, Paolo on Disney Cruise Line. The bigger the ship, the harder it is to get them reservations. So as soon as the booking window opens, make sure you make your booking.
We also recommend that you always download the Cruise Line app. It's always available on Android and on Apple. They're not perfect, and yes, you've got to keep looking at your phone, but honestly, it's your best friend on board because it keeps you updated with all of the times of things going on. On some apps, you can book things. It lets you know everything. Next is don't be conned by all of the extras, the nickel and diming on board. This can be things like art auctions. Often the art on board isn't even real art, it's just prints, and it can be highly inflated prices over what you pay on land. Specialty dining. So this is the dining that you pay extra for. Are you really bothered about doing all of the extra paid dining restaurants? Or are you just okay doing the main dining rooms and the buffet? Because these prices can really add up. The same goes for drinks packages as well. These can be extortionate. Are you really going to be drinking 12, 13 drinks a day? Or are you just going to be drinking 4 or 5 one day, then none the next day? We recommend adding up exactly how much you're going to spend by looking at menus found on Google and see how much they cost compared to how much the drinks packages actually are. So a big tip about onboard shops and duty-free shopping, it's actually not always cheaper. We always recommend checking the price of things in the shops on board compared to land. We use Amazon or just use our phones to do a quick search to see what the product costs on land, because you can often be duped into thinking it's cheaper on the cruise ship when it isn't. Things like photo packages and spa access and massages and things like that can often be so much more expensive on a cruise ship than compared to land. The casinos as well, the odds are not always in your favour on a cruise ship because the laws are less strict than they are on land, so you can end up spending an absolute fortune and not winning. Also things like early access programs and upgrades to cabins. Are you really going to need that upgrade? Do you really want to get on before everybody else for such a large price? It's just always worth checking what all of the extras are compared to what you can pay on land or whether or not you actually need them, because the cruise can end up costing an absolute fortune even though it seemed a bargain in the beginning.
Next up, research the ports of call that you are visiting, and remember that some ports are quite a distance away from where the cruise line advertises you are visiting. For example, London is not Southampton, Rome is not near Civitavecchia. Make sure you have a plan of attack for each port of call and do a little bit of research to see where you're going, what you can do, transportation options in each port. Now, you don't have to overplan, it doesn't need to be a minute by minute attack, but at least have some idea. The worst thing you can do is turn up at a port of call without any idea of what to do, because it could cost you a lot more money and a lot more time. Also, double check if your port is a tender port. This means that you'll have to get a little boat from the cruise ship to the dock. It will not dock directly at the port. This could add an extra 45 minutes to an hour onto you getting on and off the ship. So if you are doing something DIY or with a third-party excursion, make sure you keep in mind that you will be tendering and you will need to add in that extra time to get on to the port.
Now here's the scary reality. Most cruise problems actually happen before the cruise even starts, and people lose thousands of dollars because they didn't do the following. Check ship time, buy insurance, sort documents, protect their phone, plan for delays, pack properly, bring medication, and book things early. These aren't rare events. They happen on every single sailing around the world. Nobody does at the start. Even we made these mistakes years ago, and we have to admit we still make them now and again as well. We've learned through travel, through disasters, through near misses, and through watching a lot of people sprint down piers. You're not silly, you're actually way ahead of most cruisers now. Once you know these things, cruising becomes the easiest vacation in the world. And we have to give a big shout out to our patrons as well. In return for becoming a patron, we give you a weekly episode that nobody else gets to see, a full-length vlog, early access to our videos, ad-free access to our videos, a monthly video chat, and much more. You can check out about becoming a patron in the description section below. Now you've got the knowledge that people only learn after years of cruising, so hopefully your next cruise can be very smooth and very stress-free. Now let us know if we missed any big tips that you always do to avoid cruise nightmares on your cruises. We'd love to hear from you, and you never know, we might put it in a future episode. So let us know in the description section below. Now, go away and enjoy your cruise. It's going to be amazing. That's it till next time. Happy cruising!